All right, getting ready to load up these cylinders. These need the yoke at the top welded and bored. Got our equipment operator running her out there for us. Already got one loaded in the truck. I don't know what these weigh. I'm betting good 1,500 pounds a piece. 1,000 maybe. Anyway, be a good truckload for the old Ford. All right, take her up, Wiggles. That's good. All right, forward ho. All right, so I'm going to give you the rundown. We have got a pair of Cat 980G lift cylinders here. Holes are blown out and it's got quite a bit of wear on the faces. You can see I've made a couple of passes here, but I decided I'd stop and discuss what we're going to do with this. So my plan is to put one pass on the faces. They're not terribly gone. One pass will clean them up. And then one pass in the bore. And then we're going to set up on the boring mill and recut these. So here's the tricky parts with this, is I've got several considerations. One is, how do I know where this bore was located? And how do I get square and true to it? So here's what I've done. I've done some measuring, and it's pretty safe to assume that like that distance to that center is going to be some nice number. I won't show you the scribbled all over piece of cardboard that I added and subtracted and ciphered on, but I've definitely determined that that center to that center was intended to be 4.5 inches. My problem though is that as nice as that is to try and come off from, I need to be able to get this thing square when I get it on the boring mill, and the way I intend to do that, this is the only machined face. This face did not get machined, so I need this to determine what 90 degrees is and keep it there, because without dismantling the cylinder, which we don't want to do, I want to put this thing in V-blocks. Alright, so I have thrown weld on the faces, and I'm welded basically halfway around each of the bores right now. I got to flip this thing 180, go after the other side. Anyhow, we're tossing weld in there and going at it. I might wait a bit. I'm trying to make sure I don't get the rod seals too hot here. So I've got a soaking wet rag laying on here, with the idea being that if it gets too hot, she's going to start boiling, and I haven't seen her boiling yet. And I generally operate on the assumption that if you're not boiling, you're not too hot for seals to handle, because it's quite common for them to get up approaching that kind of temperature just in operation. So anyways, but I may have to lay off in it and let it dissipate heat a little bit. But I'm going to work on flipping this thing over now and get at the other side. All right, we are done welding this one. It didn't have, you know, like crazy wear on it. There was probably 30 thousandths of slop in the pins, so one good pass all the way around there is definitely sufficient to get the job done. So anyway, I'm going to scoop this one up with a forklift, set it outside and let it cool off while I weld the other one up, and then I will pull this one back in and start getting set up over there on the boring mill. Alright, had to do a little MacGyvering, so I had the cylinder sitting here. I picked it up with this, carried it over, but because it was so long, I couldn't get in under the hoist next to this. So ran the table all the way to the end and was able to just offset it all the way, set it where it is, and now I've got it up under the hoist so I can pick it up and actually position it on the table where I want it. a lot of heat going in and out. And now we're going to run up and down the side of it. We got to put this in neutral so it doesn't spin. Alright. Now we got to run them this way with power feed. Taking a spring cut through there to see where I'm at. Getting close to final dimension, and I got a few pock marks I think I got to weld up. I just wanted to see where I was at. So I'm going to back out of there, measure the hole, and then we'll see how she's looking. There you can see we got funny little ripples in there. This one's pretty good. A few little spots. There's one there. Anyway, I'm going to do a little touch up and then we'll take a skim through there and see where we're at. Alright, touched up a few spots in there. We're going in without changing the tool setting just to see what she looks like. Just in case you were wondering, I sprayed this all down with anti-spatter before I did any welding. And then I make sure that my machine ways are dripping with oil. I've tried covering stuff up and you always miss something, so. All right, so this one is done. A few things about it I don't love. You can see a few little pock marks in here like that one. As far as I can tell, there's two things that were causing that. One is I started off trying to run stringers this way, and I was getting flow-overs. On this bore, I switched to strictly welding across it. I should have known better than that, but sometimes you forget what you already know. So anyways, I got a few pock marks in there, and then just in general, because it was flux cord, it was giving me some trouble. So this one, I've switched entirely, and I'm running it with 035 solid wire. Now, the disadvantage of this, it takes a lot longer. That 045 dual shield lays down a lot faster, but I can handle a bit slower, and I'm pretty confident we're gonna get a nicer looking bore out of this. So I'm almost done. I've fully welded that bore, and I've welded over 3/4. I just got to go from there to there. I just had to stand up and let my back stretch out. Now, interestingly, this one, I did a little checking beforehand, had worn all into that face. I could still see machining marks on that face, so we're leaving alone. We definitely aren't building up a face that didn't get hurt. So, but anyway, and you can see in here, my faces aren't perfect. I got a few little ripples and dipples in that, but functionally makes no difference. We'll clean up the edges with a grinder, and I've already had the pin in that one. Interestingly enough, this pin is 3 thou under nominal, so apparently Caterpillar is fitting them with 3 thou a slop. I'm a little too picky for that, so I kept shaving it out until the pin just slipped in, and I've got something that's like 1/2 thou over size for size. I mean, you got to work and then dink and it'll slide in there. I cannot think of any good reason to make one sloppier to start with than strictly what's necessary to get it in. But so anyways, that's what we're working on. I've got a little more welding to do, and then we're gonna while this one is cooling, I'll work at breaking that one down and move this over there. All right, this one is done. Bore's all welded up, ready for machining. I wish I had done the other one this way. It looks a lot nicer, but oh well, live and learn. End result's going to be the same. It's just this one will be prettier when I get done with it. But so anyhow, that's what we're up to, is getting this thing, dropped in the boring mill. I don't think I'll bother showing the breakdown of this. You all know how tie rods and stuff come apart. I'll probably only show a little bit of the boring on the next one. Nice. We're on our first roughing pass here. Cutting beautifully. And we're looking pretty good on being centered up in the hole. That's good too. Hopefully this one, with what I learned on the first one, I've got the weld where I need it, how much of it I need, and I don't have to do any of that touch-up welding, and we can just cut it out and be done with it. I did down the feed rate a little bit. Let's see here. I think I'm doing 5 thousandths per revolution, so that's one of the things contributing to it running a little nicer. I was running 8 thou per revolution on the other one, and it just didn't like that. I was tearing up too much tooling, so I'd back down to 5 before I got done, and I think we're going to leave it there for this one. It's cutting really nice at that feed rate. Alright, I think this is our last pass at 25 thou on a side. It's looking just gorgeous. I think it's going to clean up. Yeah, I think so. Well, this should be it. Taking 2 thou on a side. Skim cut out of here. Should be enough to take me to the pin sliding in, but we'll see. Going for a barely past size for size fit. Assuming the pin fits after this, then I just got to take. So this face wasn't worn. I just ran one bead around there so that I could get a decent, corner. So I just got to come back, cut that off, knock the spatter off, and then I got to cut this face. These outsides I'll just touch up with a grinder because that one's not a machine face. This one I'll probably touch with a tool just to clean it up a little. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It's a much closer fit than Caterpillar gave it to start with. I'm very happy with that. Alright, well, that's a wrap, guys. 2 Cat 980Gs welded, bored, and ready to go back on the machine.